We're doing now Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, Maseches Pesachim, Peri Gimel, in the Dafim of the Vilna Shas, it's Yud Tes Amud Beis. Look the Mishnah. Eila Oivim Pesach. These things you have to take away on Pesach. Kusach HaBavli is a certain kind of dip that has milk and bread. V'Sheicha Amadai. That's you put in. They used to put in barley in it to make it come beer. V'Choymet Tzadaymi. Vinegar from Edom also had barley in it. The Zeisam Mitzri, certain kind of food that they're certain used for medical purposes, it had barley. The Zemeshel Tzaboim, the people that paint, they use a certain brand they put in to paint. Ameleshel Tabachim, also the certain kind of wheat that the bakers use, that the people that cook. They made a dough and they use it to cover the pot. The koine shel soifrim, that's from people that write ink. They put in some flour. All these things you have to Pesach. You have to be mevar them. Also the cosmetics is also used to have some wheat. All these things that have a certain kind of grain, you have to be mevar in Pesach. If you eat it, you're not chayav kars. Because the Gemara is going to explain these things are called chametz alei taruvis. It's not pure chametz, or it's chametz nuksha, so it's only azhar. All these things only if they have water. They must have some. Let's say the kusach habavli. You put in flour and it must be water in the mixture also. You might explain. You put in crumbs that were needed. You put some dough. You put in some flour in that beer. The beer, they used to put in some flour to give it a certain taste. But also you're talking that there's water inside the mixture. What does it mean? The wine from Romans. What does it mean? The wine of the Eretz Yisrael never became vinegar. And they used to put in barley in the wine in order to turn into vinegar. Because they needed to have vinegar, so they put in barley pieces that made it turn into vinegar. But at Tzavchen Lane, they called it Besimas Deremaya, the wine of the Romans. It means, the Gemara explains in Bavli that later Rome had this Mila. The Shalom is here, but the Gemara explains in Bavli that later on, Adarab, the Yiddish wine turned into chometz easily, didn't need this trick. The Roman wine, they needed to put in barley to make it turn into wine. So Yishalom here says that they called it the wine of the Romans, but it means afterwards when the Romans did this thing with this iron. Zeisam Mitzri, Zeise. Doesn't explain what it is, but the Gemara explains it's made from saffron and salt and barley. A certain drink that they used to use. Zoyim shel tzabon, yov begavi koitzim, begin yiklat tzibah. You put in some bran of soirim that makes that the color, the dye should get. You used to soak these plants that have a dye, and you need to put in also the bran in order to make it. The dye should stick. What is that? He takes wheat kernels that are not ripe yet. They're not a third from the period of growing. It makes it into dough, just like safflower. That it's like they used to crush it, and then the safflower was like a bundle. So he says like a challah. The same thing you do to this. You make it turn it into a challah. And it takes away overkill. It takes away the zuhama. it's some trick that this dough that you make from the melilos has a koich of pulling in all the bad smells of the meat. Kodesh shel soifrim, Alexander Obden Ambitius. He used to make black shalbatik glue, and for that glue they had to use a certain starch of the chitim was used for that glue. Ablezem of Tachshite Noshim. Each time you turn Tachshite, you turn Tepule. So some goyres Tipule Noshim. Tipule Noshim means the ones that they use to put on their body to take off the hair. Mandam Tipule calls from Tachshite. Mandam Tachshite ha Tipule loy. Tipule is very most because you put it on your body and it takes off the hair. Then I guess you reuse it again, but it's very most moed. Enkin Tachshitem is just made to a certain kind of perfume, so it's not maybe you don't put it on the body, you just carry it, put in some smell in it, so that's something else. It's just you don't actually stick it to your body, so it's not so much. See, it says all these things Torah is marbe from kol. Kol means you shouldn't do these things. I might say it's only chametz. Chametz is chametz gomer. It means by both of these psukim it says kol. Kol eichel chametz. It's because kol machametzes. So why do you say that kol eichel chametz and eichel does not go on these things that the Mishnah talks about, and kol machmetzes that the lav goes on these things. But when Torah says about kares kol eichel chametz and eichel, Torah is talking about people that eat it. The noshim. Riba b'oichlin. Kan riba v'necholin. That pasuk, kol machmetzes l'sechelu, is marbe v'necholin. Foods. Different foods. So here the Torah is talking about people. There the Torah is talking about foods. To be marbe taruvas chometz parla. As even watan yitze matzim tebelas, apish ein batam dogen, ishei ruba dogen. As long as most of it is made from wheat, yitze. Ve'elu hoil berubim chometz yechayev. He's asking, just like by matzah, if most of it is matzah, yitze matzah, saying that gab chometz, if most of it is chometz, you should be chayev kars, you should go basaroiv. When shani yirsiv lechem ve'elu ein lechem. It says lechem. It means by matzah it says lechem. It's interesting. So we say chometz also has to be a shem lechem. Since it doesn't have a shem lechem, you're not chayav kors. You must have a shem lechem. So that's what he's saying. You learn out that only a thing that's lechem, the gabbat of b'yotza matzah, such a type of thing is kari lechem in order to be chayav kors. But since it's not a lechem, you're not yotza matzah, but with the kusach habavli, well then you're not chayav kors. I was going to ask, Hazer Yosef, Vatanikal Asma in Lechem El Matzah. Shivas Yom Toichel Ov Matzois Lechem Oini. It says somewhere in a Braise that matzah is called lechem. So, what is the question? Hochat Yalef Matzah Mechometz. So, in that Braise it seems that you only yoytze matzah if it's called lechem. In other words, that Braise says the other way around, that if it's chayiv on that mishum chometz, yoytze matzah. He said the other way, since it's not matzah, you're not yotzei matzah, you're not chayav chametz. So which way is the right way? Do we say, you just finished saying now, that since you're not yotzei matzah, that's why you're not chayav kos chametz. And a different brisa, it says differently, that you can only be yotzei matzah if you're chayav on that on chametz. So in other words, you learn out matzah from chametz, not chametz from matzah. So we still don't understand why taki not chayiv on kusach habavli. It doesn't work that way. You don't learn out chametz from matzah. But even ado, ton yetzoy adam mit chametz berakik shori berakik mevushel shleimcha. Now am shleimcha imimcha loy. You see, you're not yetze with the if it's totally dissolved in the water. In your chametz at omimcha chametz we go moy chayiv. So don't tell me that you only chayiv a thing that's called matzah. Only that you chayiv mishim chametz. You see here, you're not yotzei matzah if it's totally dissolved, but you are chayav chametz. So what's the true answer? Why aren't you chayav kares on kusach habavli? Answer is in chemutzich chametz bar. That's the real reason, because these things don't become real chametz. Doesn't let them come real chametz. It's called chametz nuksha. That's why it's only a lav. Okay, this is the end of daf. You test on the base.